We're live, pal.
All right, welcome everybody to week 6 of the Georgetown Entrepreneurship Internship experience. Today's focus is going to be on your personal brand, and we're going to do a little bit of a leadership embodiment exercise to get class started, explain what your personal brand is. Every 21 minutes we're going to try this. I had lunch with one of my former students at the Toons on Sunday. He said his favorite professor senior year would take 21-minute breaks. Everybody would stretch, stand up. I'm throwing a couple high fives. We'll get the energy going. We'll sit back down and refocus for the rest of the class. And then we're going to go into different etiquette tips for when you find yourselves in unfamiliar territory, whether it's introducing yourself at a meal with coworkers, what to wear. I have 3 whole slides of do not do things. Great list of activities that just don't have a place for you in the workplace. And then we're going to wrap up with the attributes of an ideal team player and look ahead to next week. Does anybody have any questions before we dive in? All right, so everyone sit up straight. We're going to straighten our back. We're going to do a lap around. I'll go first. We'll go around. Everyone's going to just take a deep breath in. Say hi. I'm Mike Malloy, adjunct professor at Georgetown University. And you should use your summer job and title.
Hi, my name is Will McNamara. I'm an operations intern at Georgetown Building Science. My name is Kevin Ricardo, and I'm an intern at Strategic Partners.
Hi, I'm Clyde Lee, and I'm a hot sauce manager at Ruby Brothers.
Hi, I'm Charlie Heyman, and I'm an intern at Clutch.
Hi, I'm David. I'm an intern at the Lane Strategic Partners as well.
Hi, I'm Christine. I'm an intern at Savvy.
Hi, I'm Marco. I'm a business intelligence intern at Urban Sense.
Hi, I'm Jules. I'm a software engineering intern at Remington.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth, and I'm an intern at Savvy.
Hi, I'm Yukta, and I'm an intern at Urban Sense.
Brennan, just take a quick deep breath. Actually, it doesn't have to be quick. A nice exhale, and then introduce yourself.
I'm an intern at,
What's your name?
oh, sorry, yeah. I'm Brendan. I'm an intern at, Transit Screen, and I'm a sales and operations intern.
So we're going to work on this, and we might even do it each meeting just to get used to introducing ourselves. And there's a lesson in there, too, of taking a deep breath and not rushing into saying things right away. Nobody stops paying attention when you take a deliberate breath. In fact, a lot of people will be more interested in what you want to say. You can also engage in the dialogue, begin the conversation a bit calmer, more peaceful. And I want you to get comfortable introducing yourself in your roles this summer, knowing, when you meet somebody at a networking event or talking to folks, being able to talk like that. Sound good? All right, so your learning objectives for this evening are explaining to you why your personal brand matters. We're going to go over a variety of business etiquette to help you maintain and build your personal brand, and then talk about how your uniform supports that brand. So you never get a second chance to make a first impression, and my hope is that several of the things we go over tonight will empower you to make a better first impression. And so, Christine, we're going to videotape this right behind you. I just want to, maybe David, move it over a little bit and make sure that there's a couple people missing. I want to make sure that we can share the presentation with them, because your personal brand is what people say when you're not in the room. And so we're going to go over things to help you build a better brand, but you don't actually get to define it or tell people what it is or say, hey, here's a card, this is all about my personal brand. Every interaction you have with people shapes how they perceive you, what they think you're good at or not so good at. Do they take you seriously or not so seriously? So who are you? How do you authentically show up as your best self in your internship this summer, also on a day-to-day basis on campus at Georgetown? The clothes you wear, whether or not you showered that morning or reek of having fun last night might have an impact on that. And how you present yourself, whether you talk a lot or don't talk at all. These are all things that kind of go into who you are, who your brand is. And your brand identity has a few different characteristics. First, it's kind of your personality. And what is your vision for who you are, how you want to excel in the role you're in this summer. It's also what makes you different. What do you do differently than other people that work at this organization, than other interns in this program, than other students at Georgetown, than other humans on planet Earth in the United States. Thinking about your rare and valuable skills and traits that differentiate you from others, and the value you can bring to the organizations you're working with. So it's really what makes you you, and how others view you, how you can create a lasting impression. So one of the things we've talked a little bit this semester is about storytelling, and anytime you tell a story or have an interaction with someone, you want it to leave the room. Like my hope with tonight's lecture is that you leave this Car Barn 317 and go tell other people, whether it's roommates or parents or classmates, colleagues, people you work with this summer, hey, I learned a lot about personal brand and really thinking about how I represent myself in person as well as on social media, and I want to be a more legitimate professional. And it's what people remember and will think about you when you're not in the room and somebody says, oh, Clyde, what do I think about him? What are the first few words that come to mind? And if there's a new opportunity, a new project, a new role, a business trip, something fun that needs to get done, or some menial grunt work, who's going to be the best person to fill that job? You might be great for both of those things. And having a can-do attitude, a willingness to chip in and help will go a long way. And it's really like your professional reputation. So some of the elements of a personal brand include your physical appearance, your areas of knowledge, what skills you have. So if you're a digital marketing intern, for example, how many advertising kind of A/B tests have you done on social media platforms? What have you learned from it? How have you been able to extract learnings from experiments in marketing to inform future decision making? And hey, she's done 30 ad campaigns on Facebook and Instagram. We can definitely get her to do some new ones with this new product or these new words that we want to target or this new demographic or geographic area. And then it's also your communication styles. How do you talk? Are you very formal and deferential? Do you call people, Mr. Malloy and Sir? I don't think that's necessary per se. But are you like, yo, Mick, what up? I don't know that that's exactly how you would want to talk to people. And I think as you build relationships, the rapport is there. You can be a little bit more casual with things. But generally speaking, how do you communicate written, orally? What's your nonverbal communication? We'll go over, last week was all about meetings. There's some other things we'll talk about this week that you don't want to do in meetings. If you're just kind of glancing at your phone the whole time while other people are talking, even if I'm trying to talk and I'm zoomed in on something else, that says something. That's something you're communicating. How much do you care about the other people in that meeting? And how much do you want them to pay attention and respect you when it's your turn to talk? So to build an awesome personal brand, you need to identify your strengths and unique traits. So something we're going to do later this semester is do the Strengths Finder 2.0 assessment, which will basically spit out 5 of your top strengths that you're uniquely positioned to get really, really, really good at. And the more you amplify and magnify those strengths, the more effective you can be in your roles this summer. And even just the self-awareness of knowing what those strengths are, you can try to position yourself in those strength zones in your role. There's a lot of stuff that we're not good at, and some things we're really bad at, and you're probably going to be really bad at your whole life. I'm not going to tell you to work really hard on those to bring you up to be mediocre at that. What's the top of your skills, and how do we make you way better at that, so you will head and shoulders be above the competition because you've identified and worked on those strengths. We'll also share with everybody in the program what everyone's strengths are, so there'll be some overlap, and people who have similar strengths can then talk about ways that they've been able to leverage that strength academically, and then over the summer as you're getting into your roles, hey, for example, my number 2 strength is communication. So the fact that I'm sitting up here communicating to you tonight is part of it. Also in the emails that I write, in the template messages that we give to other people to share on social media about our application at Halcyon, for example. That's me using my communication strength to make it easier for other people to communicate a message that I want to get spread. And then you'll also think about what are your short-term and long-term goals, both through the end of this semester as well as over the summer in this internship. What do you hope to accomplish? Before you start on June 1st, I think it'd be great to write up an example resume you want to have ready in September. with 3 to 5 bullet points that begin with strong action verbs in the past tense, because those are things you accomplished this summer. And then how, as you enter your internship, can you fulfill the role, work to actually complete those activities? So 1, you're telling the truth. 2, you have some great examples and case studies that you can mention in interviews for future jobs, either internships or full-time employment after graduation. As you think about your career, each of the stepping stones you go through are helping you get higher in the next phase. And you're establishing kind of a portfolio of experiences, of work you've done, of problems you've solved, teams you've worked on, metrics you've increased by a certain percentage year over year, or a number of customers you acquired, or an amount of revenue you brought into the organization. Like being able to say you earned $30,000 of revenue selling hot sauce this summer, that's a legit thing. Somebody, oh wow, okay. Like, saying you earned $300 of revenue, that's not as legit. And so thinking before you even start your internship, what do you want to accomplish? And we're going to have a couple opportunities. I'm going to try to do one in March, April, and May, where you all will actually interact with the companies you're going to be working with. I'm going to reach out to them to see if we can get you all to shadow for one day in March. You can figure out a day that works for your schedule. Maybe it's a half day to go in, meet some of these people, dress nicely as we'll go over here, build some of those relationships, and try to understand more about how your role fits into the organization, what you can do before you start on June 1st to set up for success and kind of hit the ground running. Does that make sense? All right, so how do you define your personal brand? What is the written content? What are you posting? And I'm not going to go through and do a social media audit on all of you. I bet the people you're working with this summer are going to look at your Facebook and your Instagram and your Twitter and your LinkedIn at some point. Maybe not this week, but probably by early June, people are going to be checking it out. They might not friend you on Facebook per se, but if everything's public and all your photos are you doing beer bongs and whatever else, think about if that's the professional message you want to do. There's ways to set privacy settings if you want to leave it there for friends. I think LinkedIn should for sure be all professional stuff. Twitter, you probably don't want to have the most extreme angry political tweets flying all over the place. And Instagram, I'll leave it up to your judgment, but and most people can find you on Instagram, do you want people to scroll through and see all of those wild photos from spring break? I don't know, that haven't happened yet, but I have a hypothesis there might be a few. Maybe you use that stories thing that evaporates pretty quickly. That might be a better way to do it. And so just thinking deliberately about what is out there on the internet. When people Google you, you should for sure Google yourself and know what the results are. Fun fact, if you Google Mike Malloy, there's a whole Wikipedia article about this early 1900s Irish guy that was an alcoholic that several people tried to poison and kill, but he just kept drinking and lived for way longer than they thought. Not me, but maybe my spirit animal, I don't know. So you also want to think about what your values are. And how do those values come across in your personal brand, in your behaviors, how you communicate with people? Who's your current audience and what type of audience do you want to attract? Do you want to attract older, more successful, more accomplished people? Or are you content to kind of hang out with college students and go to work for 8 hours, leave and do something else? And then what are you most knowledgeable about? What have you learned the most in school? What have you learned through this program that you can bring to the internships this summer? What tone of voice do you use? There's a difference between talking real loud and saying, hey, I know exactly what we're doing, and let's go. Kind of shy, I don't want to speak up. There's probably something in the middle. Thinking about how you command and control your tone of voice. So that your message is heard and that people want to listen when you speak. Feedback is going to be really important for your entire life, and the sooner that you can learn how to remove any emotion from the time period in which you're receiving the feedback, the things you want to avoid are lashing out, getting negative, defensive, feeling personally attacked. And knowing that people, ideally, if they care about you, will give you some straight, legit, honest feedback. And there's going to be some stuff you are not very good at. And if people sugarcoat it or are scared to tell you or think you'll shut down, we talk about psychological safety, go into silence or violence. Just sit there and take it. Have your water. All right, maybe you've got your notebook. get a notebook out, guess what, if you're taking notes and looking down, you don't have to necessarily make that eye contact. If you are flaring up inside, write it down, acknowledge it, whatever it is, you say, thank you for the feedback. I appreciate you sharing that with me. I really appreciate you investing in me as a team member this summer and really as a professional over the whole arc of my career. I'm going to take this feedback to heart. I'll go home tonight and reflect on what you said, think about how I can show up even better tomorrow or next week, whatever it might be. And really just saying thank you for the feedback. Even if you don't agree with it, if it's BS, if somebody else did that thing that you just got all this feedback, take it. Don't try to blame somebody else. So a great leadership skill is to realize that everything that goes wrong is your fault and you take all the blame and you don't give it to anybody else. You might even dive in front of other people. That's a great leader. And, I had a senior manager at Deloitte where I messed something up as an analyst, maybe a consultant, like it was my fault. And I know he met with the partners and he took full responsibility for it. And he talked to me afterwards, he shared what happened, he said, nobody knows it was you, I want you to know I'm looking out for you, I want you to be successful. And I felt really cared for, like protected, like the people above me aren't going to throw me under the bus. And if you're the bottom on the totem pole, you shouldn't be throwing people under the bus. And if your boss or boss's boss finds out that you dove in front of some feedback or something for them, they're going to trust you even more, they're going to give you more responsibilities and look to mentor and nurture you. And the other thing is when things go really well, you get a lot of positive feedback, thank everybody else, share it. Everybody loves getting bonus feedback. And again, this is about personal brand. Those other people that you're sharing that with, they're not in the room. The person you're talking to who's giving you the praise, you're increasing their perception of those people's personal brands. When you talk about people that aren't there and you say positive things and you build them up and you say thanks for the work that they did to get the proposal ready or to do the presentation or make the marketing campaign or streamline this part of the operations, it's just making everybody better. You're rising the tide and everybody benefits from being willing to share that praise. Does anybody have any questions on feedback before we move forward? So you're going to find yourself in a lot of situations that maybe you haven't been in before, and I'm going to do my best to give you some etiquette tips. And when in doubt, have a trusted colleague. Like you don't need to necessarily ask the whole room, but if you're sitting at a restaurant or something, like, I never can remember. Do you know, is this my water glass or your water glass? Like, you can ask some small things like that, just as an example. And one of the best things you can do in life, channel your inner Bruce Lee, just be calm, all right? And for introduction, avoid the dead fish handshake. You don't want to just like have it kind of be limp there, like what the heck is this thing? And you don't want to avoid the eye contact and be like terrified of looking at people. When you meet somebody, you want to give them a good handshake. Stand up. You always want to never shake hands sitting down, by the way. Sorry. Great to see you. Good firm handshake, direct eye contact, and you say, it's my pleasure to meet you, and repeat their name. So you do the name repeat for a few reasons. One, you just learned it, you're going to forget it in 5 seconds if you don't say it out loud. If you say somebody's name 3 times in the first couple minutes, you're going to know what their names are. And a little Chick-fil-A joke in here, every single human that works at Chick-fil-A is trained to say my pleasure to every single customer they interact with. And there's a few things here. There's a neurochemistry science thing, that's a technical term I just used, that when you say my pleasure, the other people feel pleasure. Just hearing the word pleasure, you get a little bit of happy chemicals being released. You're like, it is a pleasure to meet you. You can drop it's a pleasure to meet you in an email. Just saying the word pleasure is pleasurable to other people, and hearing your own name is also pleasurable. So you're trying to kind of increase their net emotional outcome from this interaction or introduction. Real quick dining lesson on what goes around your plate. Come on in, Robert. Hey, Robert. That's all right, you're here for the etiquette lesson.
Perfect.
So when you get a plate with a bunch of fancy silverware around it, start at the outside, work your way in. Your salad fork's going to be outside, you got a couple spoons, couple knives, just outside, work your way in. Your coffee mug, this is like a plated, like a wedding, if you will, like a fancy meal, not necessarily just going out to lunch. You'll usually have a coffee mug. If you don't drink coffee, turn the coffee mug upside down. It says I don't drink coffee, you don't need to serve me. You'll have some wine glasses and water glasses. Red wine glasses are bigger than white wine glasses. Does anybody know why?
So that the oxygen can get into the wine. I forget the exact word, but basically so that opens the wine.
Yeah, exactly. It oxygenizes it. Oh yeah. When you're 21 and go out to restaurants, they always give you the sip. You give it a little swirl. You take a sip. It always tastes good. It's wine. I don't know why people would think it didn't taste good, but the other thing to note is if you might have a place card at like the head of your thing, don't have your name facing you. You know who you are. Turn it around so the other people at the table can know who you are. And if you're going to an event and you know you're going to be at table 7, look at the list, see who else is at table 7, and there's usually like a cocktail hour, a little bit of networking beforehand. Don't talk to anybody from table 7. Talk to all the other people, because you're going to have a whole meal at the table 7 folks. All right? And if you see somebody like, oh great, I can't wait to have dinner with you. Pardon me, I just want to say hi to a few more folks before we get to sit down together. So you don't need to waste 20 minutes to talk to somebody you're then going to sit next to for the next 2 hours. You can also look at who are the other people on the list. If you have a list of attendees in advance that you know you want to meet beforehand, it's good to strategically go to the table as soon as you get there and put your jacket or your bag or something on the seat you want. Oftentimes there's a stage somewhere. Having the seat with your back to the stage kind of sucks. Having your seat looking at that and taking in your whole table is great. If you go with a friend, don't sit next to them. Sit next to 2 strangers and have them sit next to 2 strangers. So on the way home, you both have at least 4 new people total that you've met, as opposed to just talking to somebody you already know. And there are instances where, hey, it's all my buddies, like at my wedding, I had a table of 10 high school football buddies. Like they're just gonna sit with their friends. They're not making new friends. But for certain events, like I'm going to a really fancy dinner with the Link Strategic Partners folks this weekend. And I'm really excited. I know it's a bunch of cool people. I don't know who most of them are. I'm gonna try to make some new friends and be excited to definitely sit with people that I don't know so we can have a great meal together, good conversation, and really build that relationship. Any questions on etiquette and like how the table stuff works out? One other thing to note, the wine glasses, don't put them upside down. They would break. But they might come around a few times to serve you wine. If you don't want it, just hand them the wine glass. Right? Usually you'll get both. You usually only drink one with the meal. Pick which one you want. You don't want to either give them, let them take it away, so when they do a lap around later to refill, you don't have to keep saying no. Yeah. So, when your boss invites you out to lunch for the first time, and just the 2 of you, you may not know what you want to order. Well, you may know what you want to order, but you might not know what's appropriate to order. And so a couple pieces of advice here. Always start with water. Try to not be the first person to order. If it's 2 of you, obviously let them order. If it's a group, defer to the women, like say, oh, hey, why don't you order first? I'm still looking at the menu. Have 2 options picked out. You should never, ever be the first person to order alcohol. Ever, okay? If the boss or the boss's boss or somebody, and he goes around, everybody's getting a beer, and you're 21 years old, legally, not just with an identification card that says you are, you may order a beverage. However, saying I'll just start with the water, even if you have to go first, it can do a lap around, other people order alcohol, and like, oh, we're drinking? Okay, cool. Yeah, let me get a Sam Summer as well. Throw it on there once you know what the vibe is. There are 2 food options here. If you were to order first and order this fancy steak thing at the bottom and everybody else gets chicken Caesar wraps, that's awkward. All right, you want to gauge if it's a lunch meal, $15 or less, maybe $20 or less. If it's a nice dinner after work, there's like the super fancy steak stuff, and then there's like the $15 to $20 like chicken parm or pasta or something. Try to order something from the same part of the menu or certainly the same price range as your boss or your colleagues. You don't want to be ordering the most expensive stuff. You probably don't want to order appetizers unless everybody else has gotten a salad or a soup, or somebody says, hey, the cream of crab soup here is great, you got to try it. Get a bowl or a cup, what you want. But don't like overextend. Nobody will ever tell you like you shouldn't have ordered that and like why'd you do that, but they're going to think it. And it's going to impact their perception of your personal brand, your awareness of the situation, and they may be hesitant to invite you out the next time. And don't, as much as you may be a poor hungry college kid or whatever, don't take all of the leftovers and be like, I haven't eaten in weeks, like this is going to feed me. You can get 1 to-go box, like that's totally cool, but don't try to hoard all the food, make sure that other people get it. But if you have like a thing at work, there's a bunch of pizzas, there's a leftover pizza, say, hey Robert, you want to take a pizza home? Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, but make sure you offer it to other people as well, and try to be equal there.
Question more for like just a friend of mine. I'm curious. If you order something that is like super vanilla, and everybody else orders something that's like kind of a little more like I guess tasteful, like
Yeah.
does that reflect poorly?
Not necessarily. If you get like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich,
Right.
that might be weird. But
Right.
if everybody's getting nice dinners and you just want like chicken Caesar wrap or something,
Yeah.
I think that's fine. Yeah. Not everybody. Well, the other thing I'll say is like if you go to like an Indian restaurant or like ethnic food that you're either not familiar with or your stomach is not very comfortable with, just try to not make a big deal about it and get something simple and make it look like you've eaten things, even if, you know, I've worked with a lot of Indian people, my stomach doesn't necessarily love that food, but some of the chicken and rice, and you can, you know, make it work out all right. Cool? All right, so we're about 21 minutes. Yeah, a
Is
little
it
bit.
appropriate to ask, like, what would you recommend?
Yeah. Yeah, you can definitely have like small talk before the waiter comes, like, hey, what do you think you're getting? You know, what do you think looks good on the menu? Try to understand, like, when I had my mentor at Deloitte, we'd have our like mid-year and year-end checkpoints. We would always go to CPK, and we'd always both get the barbecue chicken, Jamaican jerk chicken. Like, we both loved it. It was great. We'd get iced tea with lemon, and like, it's totally fine to get the exact same thing. Nothing wrong with that. Yeah. So we're gonna take a break for a second. Let's all stand up, stretch, and you have to give 3 high fives to your classmates. Get some positive energy flowing. I got one for you. There we go.
Four.
That's
Give
awesome.
my vision just blurred.
All right, so now we're awake. We moved our bodies a little bit, and we're gonna sit back down and refocus. Rest of the meeting. So here's all the things not to do. Don't talk about how hungover you are. Don't talk about drinking alcohol, especially if you're under 21. Don't get drunk at work. Don't get drunk with colleagues or clients. You have a 10-week internship, there's really no reason for you to get drunk with people you work with. And you can bring maybe about 80% of your authentic true self to work. That Friday, Saturday night college self, save that for home and your college friends. Your people you're working with don't need to know about all of your weekend festivities. You know, how was your weekend? Come up with a PG, maybe PG-13 story to share. Don't drink at lunch. It's just one, you have a much less productive afternoon, unless you're in like a Mad Men marketing type environment, which I don't think anybody's in. There shouldn't just be like whiskey in the drawer coming out at 12:30. There may be situations where some offices have a bar or wine, or there might be something after work. Raise your hand if you're going to be 21 this summer. So realistically, you 3 are the only ones that should drink alcohol with anybody you work with. Robert.
It's a question, obviously, it's hypothetical, but like, say you're working in a WeWork, and they're like phasing this out, but like, say theoretically you're working in a WeWork or a place with like beer on tap, like alcohol on tap, like at what point in the day is it appropriate to like give that?
4-ish. Like, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. Not everybody can make it to 5. I'm not gonna say I've never drank before 5, but I don't think it's good with lunch. Because literally, if you have that first beer, you're a bit more chilled, you're not as productive, and you also might say something you would regret. And that's one of the things we're trying to avoid here, is having you say anything that damages your personal brand. Like my first 2 weeks at Deloitte, we had this massive training. It's all 21-year-old, 22-year-old college grads. We went to Orlando to like Disney World for 2 weeks. Every night there's an open bar, and part of it was like, how hard can you go and still be up and in your seat by 8:30 in the morning for training the next day? There were definitely people who were not there till like 10 or 10:30, and like that reflects negatively. There was also somebody who decided to urinate in the fountain at the hotel and was promptly fired the next morning. So like, be cognizant that there are dumb things you can do when drunk that can result in termination. And then when you apply for every other job, they're going to ask, you know, why did you leave that job? Is that the story? Is that the anecdote, the bullet point you want to put on your resume to help you get the next job? I don't think so. Question?
So speaking for people who may be under 21, what if you have a boss that's like,
Super cool.
like probably understands that you're under 21, but just continues like.
So it's a fine line. I don't think you need to make a big deal like, whoa, I'm 21, like I definitely can't touch alcohol.
Yeah.
But if you constantly say, you know, oh, I've got this thing for work, I'm really working on this report, I want to focus on this like maybe afterwards or maybe after work, and like not having a beverage at your desk. There is a big risk for employers that if they served alcohol, also if you drive to work and you're gonna have to operate a car home, even having one beer, you get pulled over, you get a DUI as a 19 or 20-year-old because you were drinking at work, that's gonna look pretty bad on all sorts of things. I also don't want you to be in a position where you're like peer pressured and like everybody's doing it, like, you know, you gotta take shots or you're not a good Facebook programmer or whatever, you know. If it presents itself and it's pretty clear, like maybe not the first week or two, but you observe the work culture, you don't think it would be a terrible thing to have a beer, okay, but I still think it's better to have that line and like go home and do it with your friends and have a very professional, sober mind and attitude. I don't have it on here, but it should go without saying, don't do drugs at work, don't do drugs before work, be there, sober, straight-laced, ready to work. Another thing to avoid is anything sex-related. Nobody you work with is attractive. Nobody on the internet is hot or sexy or, ooh, did you see this music video or this halftime show? Like, those are things you don't need to talk about at work. And it's just, I mean, especially in today's kind of Me Too culture, and don't say anything inappropriate that will make you liable, make somebody feel uncomfortable, somebody may be in that group who isn't gonna speak up and call you out. You may also work with people who do some of these things. Don't participate. And maybe you can't like leave at that exact moment, you don't want to make a big deal out of it, but make a note, adjust your perspective of their personal brand, and figure out how you want to reduce the risk of you being in those situations moving forward.
You know, so I could make a recommendation?
Yeah.
Don't talk about politics. I know at Georgetown it's like, it's a personality trait almost. But like, you're gonna offend someone regardless of how like open-minded or closed-minded you are. Like someone's gonna get offended.
Yeah.
And like I remember at my last job, someone brought up like the Joe Biden thing, and then was all talking about like, then someone wrote Trump into it, and I was like, I don't want to touch this with a 50-foot pole.
I think avoiding politics, whether there's a debate last night or not, doesn't have to be something you talk about at work. Be respectful, people want to share their opinions, don't feel compelled that you got to chime in. Don't be the last person to get to work in the morning. First week, err on the side of getting there 30 to 60 minutes early, as long as you can get into the building. Like nobody's going to be upset you're there early, and don't be the first person to leave, unless you have like a legit doctor's appointment that you told your boss a week before, hey, I've got this dentist thing at 4:30, is it okay if I leave before? Aim to leave like 5 to 10 minutes after your boss leaves. Don't leave 2 minutes